Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Friday, January 14th, 2022. Happy Friday, everyone. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES, and a fairly big decline in the previous session, along with a steady continuation today. This has taken out a couple of key levels. Number one, when you have a strong low like you do here, that midpoint right there is very, very important. The next day, perfect pullback and bounce. And on this day right here, you can see after taking out that low, it was a stop run day down back toward that level, and now we're through that midpoint. To go through the midpoint of a major rejection day like that would suggest 9 times out of 10 that you go take out that low. So if we finish below that mid today, that would indicate taking out this low at some point down the road, perhaps even today. Additionally, to turn down off the key range high, this is what we talked about before. This key range high right there, very important. Here's your impulse low, that's your key range low. Your midpoint is right here. And if you're going to have a box and fail, you drop back to the midpoint, you come back to the top, bears rejected, and you're back to the midpoint. So this all suggests that we're at least headed back toward 44.92, the bottom end of this key range, and maybe even a bit more downside. We'll see how that goes. Now, one thing to watch out for, how do we finish the day? Again, do we finish the day below this mid? If so, that would suggest a push toward 44.92. If we have some miraculous recovery here and say we finish back above 46.50 and a tail develops, it may look similar to something like this here, where now maybe a higher low could boost this thing back up toward highs. But until that happens, right now, you see clearly bears in control here, pushing below that midpoint and extending two-day losses to the downside. And unless this thing can really kind of recover above 46.40, we still have much more downside that could be seen ahead. Taking a look here at the NQ, very similar price action, but even more significant. If you look here at the bigger time frame, one thing you'll notice is this large rounded pattern, and right here, after this big bounce up, we've seen another hard lower high and a drop here. We're now through that midpoint as well. Again, if we close below that mid for the day, that would suggest 9 times out of 10 we go take out the low at the very least. So say we close the day like today, it would suggest we go down there. But if we close the day back above, say 15,600, there could be a nice higher low that develops, again very similar to something like this here. And maybe that higher low could open up a bounce back towards 16K or beyond. But short of that right now, that midpoint's important. Staying below 15,450 would suggest that bears are still in control of the down move unless a significant rejection occurs. Another thing to keep in mind is if we're looking at the yearly PivotBoss pivots here, previous year's high is this top blue line, previous year's close is that blue dotted line. And you can see how they were swiftly rejected to begin the year. And now you're seeing a lower high develop. Whenever you reject the high and the close like this, after a trending year, the tendency would be to snap back toward the midpoint of that prior year. The midpoint is down here at 14,475. And that's also right in line with closing yearly VWAP and this CLVN and previous support. So on this move, are we about to see a continuation right to that midpoint at the 470 zone, in addition to yearly VWAP and the CLVN? If so, that could provide another opportunity to push this thing even higher. So right now, watching to see how this plays out, but clearly that midpoint here going to be important. Bears still controlling the trend at the moment here over the last couple of days, and we'll see how much more downside, if any, we see up ahead. Taking a look here at a crude oil chart. Crude oil right now, very, very bullish. This one has been en route to 86s ever since it pushed through 76s here. This higher low was tremendous. You pushed through market structure here. You defended and held it, and it's been a very strong start to the year so far for crude oil. Again, any pullback, 1-day pullback, 2-day pullback could be a buying opportunity for a stretch move to that 86 edge. Once we do get to 86s or push through those levels here, expect price likely to fade back and we trade perhaps 76 to 86 before perhaps extending this thing to the upside. So right now, very, very bullish overall. While we're seeing a little bit of a pullback here off the highs. If you look at the intraday chart, whether it's a 4-minute, 5-minute, 15-minute, there's been a very nice impulse sell-off from the highs, which has defined a nice top and bottom. If the midpoint is tested, that could be a great intraday key range to continue to watch here heading into the weekend. All right, taking a look at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin down 1.38%. Couple of things regarding Bitcoin here. Number one, 40K big time level. It's only been tested a number of times since August. The one time it got below it here, we got a bounce. Pretty good bounce. It wasn't so significant a reaction to be like that's the low. And instead what we mentioned was the downtrend remains intact and the bearish Pima trigger zone continues to be intact and continues to be something to watch. So we knew that there could be a little bit of resistance or headwinds up here. Where this is going to star is if, again, can it find a higher low in this zone and then start to push higher. Like this, where it dropped into the level and then started to find maybe a higher low and then this squeeze happened. Can it do that? Because that's where a move toward 52s can happen now. If not, and if this signal sticks by the end of the day, that might be indicative that another wave of weakness could be ahead. These small blue signals are very, very trend confirmed signals that, again, only fire in very clearly defined trending scenarios. And if it's firing a sell, everything still suggests we're in a downtrend until we see that significant rejection. So right now, we're looking at still a downtrending market, although a reaction at this edge right here could give us a higher low that could finally get this thing going to the upside. Otherwise, a failure to hold 40K opens up prices at 30K, and that could provide a tremendous buying opportunity to the upside down the road. All right, let's take a look here at ETH. Looking at ETH, again, you can use a very similar analysis here. We still have a very clearly defined downtrend intact. You can see the smaller blue signals, trend confirmed sell signals in play. We did get that one good reaction at 3,000, which was not bad. It's exactly, you would expect a reaction at 3K, as we mentioned, but it wasn't so much of a significant reaction that would suggest that that was the low. So right now, with that selling pressure here, we're kind of at value. If you look at this profile here, value high, value low, we've come off the top end of value and we're at value. We could easily be stuck in this zone for a while, which means it can drop to 2750, rally back to 38 and trade in here, and then it could drop down here and trade below value before bouncing back up. So again, we'll see how it plays around this value level right here. You can see right at the center of that profile. So again, there could be some chop that happens here. So this is a different zone. But 2750 is still the key level to watch. It could give a great near-term bounce and perhaps a long-term bounce. Failure to hold that level and you drop below composite value area low, and that could be a tremendous buying opportunity. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the weekend. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Again, good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.